Point Development Authority to order. I want to thank all of our visitors for being here today. It's a good crowd, and welcome to the meeting. If you've been coming to some of our meetings, obviously we've got a little different format around the table anyway today. I'm trying to adjust to it because we're streaming live, so we found some issues with camera angles and all that stuff, and we're trying to open it up at the end of the table and that kind of thing. So any thoughts you have on that after this would be appreciated. First item is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
Move for approval.
Second.
If there are no objections, the agenda will stand as presented. Previous minutes, you were sent the minutes earlier. Any changes, corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, if there are no objections, the minutes will stand approved as presented. Committee reports, Susan, education, museum, camping.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. So glad to see you all here. I think we're having some exciting news coming. I want to start with this. Where's the camera? Is it still there?
Yeah.
As many of you know, and especially those of you who've been around the ship a lot, we have an Aladdin's Aladdin's cave here on the ship of artifacts and things that we don't have room to exhibit. So the harbor room, which is the air-conditioned, secure, climate-controlled room downstairs next to the ladies' room, new ladies' room, thank you. We're going to schedule to open in fall of FY22. That room will be repurposed, or actually not really repurposed, but upgraded to be a Fragiles Collections exhibit. And I'd love for y'all to pass this around and take a look. It's a place that can have rotational things. We have on the ship now, for an example, 86 framed artworks that are down there that could be displayed there. We have so many things and artwork and things that go on the wall that there's going to be a rotation of those things. It will be a way to bring people back that have different interests to come see the ship, come see our things, and certainly make more of a connection for the kids and for our visitors to World War II and the real purposes and the real culture of the Yorktown. Jim Vickers did the markup there. I think that's wonderful, and Bryan Parsons is going to be building the display cases. It should be a very low cost, almost no cost kind of thing as far as purchasing pieces or anything for that.
It's air conditioned.
And it's air conditioned. It's one of the few places that we can put fragile, some of the fragile artifacts. The Talos missile that's out there next to where we park, next to the administration trailers, is a recovered Charleston Navy Yard piece of property or whatever, and when it was closed in 1990, that missile was put here. There are no transfer documents or receipts. It is in an unsafe condition. The base is completely corroded. The maintenance staff has already lowered it into a horizontal position. It's 32 feet long, and it was brought before the committee, and I'm bringing it before you to, there's a proposal to dismantle it, and because we don't have the capability to do anything to it. There's a safety issue. However, it was fired from a Navy cruiser between, it was a part of that between 1958 and 1979. and one did down a plane during the Vietnam conflict. But the issue is money and time. I'm not bringing this as a motion, but just as information. I think that we need to consider trying to look for other alternatives for this artifact and make an effort to for dismantling it to be the last possible solution to that problem. I don't think it's a problem, but that issue. So I don't know if that needs to come as a motion or just as information. I'm bringing it as information.
No, we just use it as information.
Oh, you can't say. Oh, I just was curious. I know somebody who would want to buy it.
Oh,
And I mean, can it be sold? Although we don't have the documentation.
We'll donate it.
Okay.
We don't have to sell it. We'll donate it.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we sure that the authority owns it?
We do own it.
Well, it's going up to Indiana. They'll never find it.
there.
There's no
We own it.
receipts. There's no transfer from the United States Navy. The Navy base closed. It was simply a scavenged piece of equipment.
Okay.
Can we look? Can we?
Unfortunately,
Bill,
violence
do
like that.
you think we need to document that, Bill?
We'll talk about that, yeah.
Okay, so that was information. And there's going to be a film production crew is going to be borrowed some things to make a movie down in Savannah, and our good out of that is they took 20 ready room chairs and several sinks and some equipment off the ship that they used in filming that they have brought back redone. So they recovered these 20 chairs, and so that was a real plus for us. In Education Committee, we spent a lot of time talking about our structure, our personnel, because last meeting we talked about the need to start camping back and to bring back education and bring back those revenue sources and those visitors. Because of COVID, of course, we have lost a lot of people, especially particularly in the education department, because so many of them are part-time and teachers and instructors. So we looked at the strategic plan that was made for 2023. We looked at the dynamics. We talked about conversations and things with the education people and in Columbia, and tried to look for solutions to be able to put everything in place that we need to hit the ground running when it's allowable to do so. There's a lot of work to be done. Simply for operations to prepare the space. It's going to take several months to clean. We would have an October goal to bring back camping, and we'd start with 200 campers as overnight people in October. As far as the education programs go, that can take a different way of bringing people back. Keith has done an unbelievable job for the outreach with this book, and this is the history book that our text that our education uses, that is funded by the EIA. It has little icons in it that go to an app that you can put on your phone, that the teachers and the kids will be putting on their phone, that brings forward a video on whatever topic it is, except that those videos are so well done and they're done in-house that a high school senior could use it all the way down to a second or third grader. And they can, without republishing this book, change the content under those little icons that app to your phone. Also, there's a plan that we're going to take to Columbia to have iPads furnished for the teachers and for visitors, and then put the QR codes around different things that are age appropriate or whatever appropriate to them, that they can have whatever grade they're with, put in that, go to the QR, and it brings up content appropriate materials and age appropriate materials. So there's so much high tech. there's so, and what I've asked Keith to do is prepare a video presentation of all these things, because I think in Columbia, a lot of people do not know what great condition so much of the ship is in, what great assets we have, how many people come, and I think for them to see that is going to be something. I'm not sure when that's going to happen or when it'll be presented, but he has the ability and the technology to do all that. So I'm really excited about that. I do think that if we can lay the groundwork, we'll have a lot of support to restart camping and the education programs. And that's all that.
Any questions for Susan?
And you do have the book, and the app is called Zappa. Is it Zapper or Zappar?
Zappar.
Zappar. Zappar. Just go to the App Store to get it, and it's just incredible. So I highly recommend that.
Works last.
Just a couple of things in development committee before the executive session. One, we had a great presentation from marketing yesterday. They're doing a tremendous job with 20% of the budget from the previous year. Appreciate all you're doing, Chris, and I think maybe we can have a presentation, hopefully maybe an abbreviated version of that yesterday's presentation next meeting.
Yes, sir.
And so everybody will know the things that you guys are doing. Also, we have a resolution. The committee is moving adoption of a resolution to extend the option for the Medal of Honor Museum, in terms of the option we have for getting the lease done. Bill and Neil have talked and agreed to a 6-month option. The original extension expires in next week or two. So they would like a 6-month option on it. Everybody's fine with it as far as they are concerned. And so it's a committee motion. Doesn't require a second. Any discussion?
Second.
Any questions or anything? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion as presented, signify by raising the right hand. All opposed, the ayes have it. It's unanimous. Thank you. Facilities and operations, Darwin?
Yes, and also have finance, and it'll follow
Okay.
facilities and operations. Under information technology, we're upgrading the phone system, and that will be completed by April the 30th. We've completed over 80% of our server upgrades, and we'll have that completed by the end of May. We're also conducting an interview for one vacant IT position that we have, and that'll be announced before too long. Under the operational part, we have completed 65% of the restoration of the float deck. Also, this last month, we had 4 members from the Hoboken Naval Museum visit us, and they are interested in the Clamagore, and they would like to take on the Clamagore and move it to Hoboken and have it as a museum artifact for their museum. They're going to be back again in May for another visit and conversation. Like all things, there's a lot of complicated pieces to it, but that's another possibility for moving the Clamagore and having it retained intact. More to come. We're also making preparations right now to open up the Clamagore probably in the next month or so. It's been closed because of COVID. There's been a lot of other maintenance items taken care of, and I'd like to thank the Laffey Association. They've had 17 people working over here helping us do a lot of maintenance, and we really appreciate that. So if there's no questions about the operational part, we'll move on to the finance.
Any questions?
Okay. I have some good news. So last year, we lost money every single month because of poor attendance and mostly closure of PPDA. Interestingly enough, we opened back up pretty much full-time in March, and in March, our attendance literally soared. And after losing money for 12 months in a row, we made $400,000 profit for Patriots Point last month. Now, that may not continue, but we are definitely trending in the right direction. So, because of the extra $400,000, our cash and cash equivalents has moved from $5,160,000 to $5,560,000. 2.7 million of that 5.56 million in cash equivalents that we have is a result of the state's funding to us for the Clamagore removal, which they allowed us to take into operations. So if you really take a look at what's going on, the real key to financial success is making sure that Patriots Point is open and operating. And for the first 15 days of May, the attendance has been incredibly high, just like it was in March. So that's the key. One other minor thing, the Senate has put forth a motion to defer our Laffey loan for 1 year. So we'll not have to deal with that probably until next year. So, Mr. Chairman, that completes my finance report unless there's questions.
Any questions? March was the best month we've had in well over a year, so I think hopefully in the first couple of weeks of April seem to be trending in the right direction. So we're very hopeful that things are going to continue that way. Thanks, Darwin. Zeb?
The search committee convened earlier this week. We went through the applications from the candidates that FGP had vetted and thought possibly could meet our expectations. We've whittled that down to a manageable list to begin interviewing. In fact, that starts this afternoon at 1 o'clock, and we'll probably have round 2 one day next week. It's still a little fluid, but probably next week. And stay tuned.
When do you expect to maybe have the finalists for forward to?
If we have the round of interviews with the local candidates next week, I think we could have something potentially by the next board meeting, don't you think? Yeah.
Well, if you wanted to, I think it'd be sooner than that.
Oh yeah, but in terms of the board.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thanks for all y'all are doing. It's we have had a good response, as I understand, and so I think that that's awesome. I hear there's some really good level of candidates. I haven't personally seen any of it. Sounds like we're going to do well here. So thanks to the committee. We've got a couple of special groups here with us today. First of all, the Yorktown Foundation, and as I've said many times, we owe these guys and Allison, mostly Allison, but we know who's doing the work. But under Mike Zina's leadership and now Chauncey Clark, and guys, we just appreciate all you're doing all the time. It's amazing how well things continue to progress. So, welcome, Chauncey, Allison. Chauncey?
Thank you, Wayne.
Everybody knows Chauncey Clark, I think.
You know, one of the first things that I wanted to do when I went on the board about a million years ago was try to. I felt like the boards around the ship were on islands, and we were floating around separately. And this meeting here, to me, is a turning point to have bridges built. And so I'm excited about that. And I'm also excited about hearing about the education program coming back on, because that's one of our main fundraising deals. We're really, it's not like low-hanging fruit, but it's something we're excited about. And I'm especially excited to hear about the ship turning in terms of financially. It was a long ride to get to this point, but I think, and we've tried to help with that in some ways with what we could do. for the ship from the foundation. So if I could have all the board members stand and look silly. I'd just like to go through and just introduce them one at a time. We got Mike Cizinga as immediate past chair. He's carried the ship for probably 25 years, 7 years at least. So he's really been the heart to get this thing going. And this Admiral Flatley in the back, he's held every position on the ship except the prone position. And, thank you for that. Joe Wisherat is, raise your hand, Joe. Joe is a member of the team. I don't know what Joe does for a living. Let's see. I have Rebecca Casanta. Thank you, Rebecca. She's been on the board since the beginning. A great asset to the board, and her company's been a great supporter of a lot of our events and so forth, published and everything we've accomplished. And then we have Kent Pryfly Hutchison. Kent has been the engine behind getting the Pryfly going for the association, with the association's help. Thank you for that. And so it's all very good. And the people that aren't here are, let's see, Kevin Udiris, a Blackboard guy. He's a really good board member. Greg Colton, another donor. And Tommy McQueenie, and everybody knows he straddles a couple boards. So they're not here. Pat Waters is here. He straddles a couple boards. So thank you for bringing that back. And see, I don't have anything else to say. That's the board. We're working hard for you, and I hope that we keep going with this bridge thing. It's important that the boards know each other personally and otherwise. And maybe we can one day in the future get together socially. Allison, this is Allison Hunt. Does anybody not know Allison Hunt? So it's my job, it's been my job in recent days to try to just keep up with her. And that's been, I go around behind her with a bucket to try to pick up the pieces. So she's the real leader, and I want to thank her for that and thank her for the hours of work she puts into this.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Chauncey. Thanks, y'all. And thank you guys for letting us be here today and present to you. And I want to present the rest of our team because we have a couple of folks that are fairly new to our team that have been here for a while but have come on board with the foundation. Tom Ford, the volunteer coordinator, is now with the foundation, and I'll talk more about that later. And Jen Barbeau Brace. She came on as an intern last January. A lot of you guys have met her. She's continued on with the foundation and does a lot of our donor database stuff and has helped out in a number of different ways that I'll talk a little bit more about later. She's probably on live stream. And we also have shared her with the association, and they have ended up really taking advantage of her great talent. So we've got a really good team. But the other very important team member or members that I want to mention here are the Patriots Point staff. Everybody you see here, everybody that's watching on live stream, everybody that's out there working, we are all one big team. And we can't do our jobs without the great job that Patriots Point does, the staff people do. You know, logistically, in terms of all these projects that you'll see, we don't do these alone. I'm going to talk a lot about the foundation, but this is all of us. We all work together on this. And then in the larger scale, the visitor experience, when our donors, almost all of our donors they visit the museum. All of our major donors visit the museum. If they don't have a great experience at the museum, the foundation doesn't get the support, and we're not able to give that back to Patriots Point. So we really are all just, we all are one big team. So I'm breaking out the foundation today, but that day in, day out, we've all just got a job to do. And I will launch into that. On the opening page, you see our mission statement. We had a retreat back in December of 2019. We revisited our mission statement and we changed it to reflect the importance of our partnership with the museum and the museum's mission. The foundation is here to support the museum. That's what we do. That's all we do. So we'll dive right in. Projects. We'll go over some of the projects that we've worked on from 2020 to this point. So, Pdr Restoration Project. I'm sure you guys have heard about that. This was a really fun little mini campaign for the month of March in honor of Vietnam Veterans Day. The PBR needed work. Everybody's known that for quite a while. Mike and I talked, and I said, "What do you think?" And he said, "Can we raise 15,000?" I said, "Let's try." So we put it out there. We just a Facebook fundraiser alone. We raised $9,500 that way. High hopes. That way, and then directly donated through the foundation. Actually, these numbers we actually have taken in more since then. It is continuing, so we're up over 22,000 now. So it's just more work that can be done. But it's 100 donors from all over the country. There's so much interest. So this was a really fun, a really good campaign. Aircraft tires, you guys have heard a lot about this, but this has been, of course, a very major project for us over the last really 2 years at this point. It is wrapping up. I think they're about ready to move into Vietnam and do the last two aircraft there. So we did the 22 aircraft tires. This is through a donor. And also the jack stands, and they're just following right along and doing that. Y'all have had a lot of reports on that, but that's been a really big project for the foundation. And then once the work was started on the aircraft tires, Mike's team got in there and discovered, and our Williams Tire that's doing the work, the aircraft, 3 of the aircraft were just too fragile to actually put up on jacks. So we went back to our donor who paid for the aircraft tires, and he said, "I want the project done, whatever it costs," and this was the cost, so $35,000. So he gave, and that foundation gave another $35,000 toward that project. Pdr Restoration. This is, as Chauncey mentioned, Kent Hutchinson has been talking about this for years, and Admiral Flatley, and what about our Pdr? It's such an important part of the ship. And so it's been about 1.5 years now. We started rolling on this Pdr project. Very long story short, there's a lot of complexity, a lot of moving parts, a lot of partnership here. But we are in the last stages of the Pdr restoration, and we are thinking that project, the work is going to be done, should be finished by June. So there's a lot of layers to that, but that's a really exciting project. That's going to come in a little over $25,000, which we've raised through donors, and also we did a Facebook fundraiser with that, and some foundation unrestricted funds are going toward this as well. The Battle of Okinawa flag, the restoration and custom casing, and the restoration of the USS Laffey pennant. This is a grant. This is the Tin Can Sailors grant. That they are great supporters of the museum, and so we're able to do great projects every year with the support of the Tin Can Sailors. Rise Above Red Tails. Last February, when the world was a normal place, we did a program with the traveling exhibit, the Rise Above Red Tails, and you all remember that. We had a very cold, long weekend that we did that, but great project in honor of Black History Month. We had a great turnout, even with the bad weather. That was about an $8,500 project that we funded through some sponsorships and through some foundation unrestricted funds. One of the things that we're always looking at as we do these projects is we want to take advantage to share what's going on at the museum with the community. So we look at earned media. We work very closely with marketing to make sure the museum's message and the exciting things that are happening around here are getting out there. So that project had an earned media of about just under $20,000. Programs. So we do a handful of programs. One of the ones that we would have really never seen coming last year was taking the volunteer team as a part of the foundation. When everything shut down and we had the major layoffs in last March, one of the positions that was laid off was the volunteer coordinator. So as we were looking at the museum reopening, and at that point we were doing no new hires, no one could be rehired. Everything was very closed down last May. Our team got together and we said we've got to keep the consistency with the volunteer coordinator. That is 130 plus people that are the front door of the museum. They're our welcoming staff, and they're so committed. So we stepped in and we took over the coordinator's salary. We took over the costs for the volunteer program, and we're happy to do it and honored to do it. And we do that out of our unrestricted funds. and it's been great. And part of what we do with that, also we were doing this before, was we created a volunteer fund steering committee that gives the volunteers an opportunity to donate directly into a dedicated fund for them, and volunteers identify projects that they see, since they are all over this museum and understand it well. That's what that steering committee is all about. Educational programs. It's been a quiet year, but we still in March, through January of March of 2020, we still funded $25,000 in educational scholarships. So that program really rolls. Last year we did over $75,000 of funding and scholarships for Flight Academy overnight camping. As Chauncey mentioned, that's a very important part of the foundation mission. We work very hard to partner with the education department and everybody with, keeping those programs up and running. We did as you all know, we have the endowment, the scholarship endowment, the JROTC scholarship endowment that we named in honor of Mac Burdett when he retired. So we still have that fund's working, sitting there ready to go. We did last year the $65,000 in upgrades in the Flight Academy, and then of course the American Airlines grant before that. So we've got a real commitment there, and we're really excited to know where we need to work to raise money for the upcoming school year. It's going to be great to see kids back here. Marketing programs. This is another place that there was when the shutdown happened and budgets were cut. Marketing was one of the teams that really took a big hit. And the key to getting Patriots Point back up and running, as Darwin mentioned earlier, is we got to get people here. We have to get people in attendance. So we were able through grant funding, we were able to help with marketing efforts. We did we were able to fund the winter campaign. Those of you that heard Chris's presentation yesterday, that was a tremendous success and a real shot in the arm when we were really desperate for it. And so when we converted those Charleston County ATAX funds, that's what that went toward, and that had a very immediate effect. We were able to fund the new billboard, and we were able to cover the cost for the new Patriots Point Friends of the Fleet annual pass program, the branding and printed materials. We were able to support with that. We do those things through grants. And then the concierge program support, that is a great program that they do, where they do hotel outreach and try and get people, get the people that work in the hotels to send guests to Patriots Point. So we support that in terms, Sis takes them cupcakes or cookies or whatever she needs just to keep that kind of rolling. And then Jen is, when marketing lost so much staff and lost all of the people that were doing social media and all of that, we said you can use Jen for that. Jen Bray, she's very talented at this, so she stepped into a marketing role that we funded, and continues in that role with supporting social media and anything else that the marketing team may need. And plus, it's a great opportunity for her to be exposed to lots of different things. Staff support, we are really honored and excited about the great programs that the staff has put together to do some morale boosting activities. Jess and Melissa and the team, the care team group, that's the caring, attentive, responsive, and empowered group. They do things like donuts for St. Patrick's Day, and they do just regular fun morale boosting events around the ship. Little small things, but just an opportunity to tell staff that they're appreciated. We're really honored to be able to fund that. We fund the Employee of the Quarter, Employee of the Year program, retirement gifts. We do the Thanksgiving, Christmas luncheons, any meeting luncheons, special projects. These are just areas where the foundation is able to help out in ways that state agencies can't do it, or there's not resources for. And we fund all of this out of our unrestricted fund budget. So this is a number that's very important to us. 83.6% of our income is devoted to programs. So that is up again this year. Our goal is to continue to see that rise. That means that we don't sit on our money. We put it into programs and we make it work. So it goes back into the museum. We try and we like to keep a year of operating expenses in our budget. This last year it was tight, but we were able to do it. And then other than that, we fund what needs to be funded at the museum. Other projects, there's a handful of these. We have 23 restricted fund accounts. So we have lots of different little bits and bobs of things going on. A couple of things I'll just point out down in the bottom left corner. One of the volunteers, Stu Carlin, is doing maintenance and cleanup on the aircraft on the hangar bay, so we're paying for his supplies. The radial engine there in the middle, Keith has been talking a lot about that project. The foundation funded the radial engine, and we will continue to work with Keith and his team and support that effort to bring that to an exhibit. And we did a volunteer staff golf tournament last March, and some cleanup in the Vietnam experience through the volunteer fund. Fundraising. This is where we live and breathe. So our donors, this last year when funding really dried up and our revenue streams dried up, our donors really stepped in. And so we saw an 80% increase in our individual donations, which are so important to all nonprofit organizations. We doubled our number of donors again this year. We did the same last year. 100% of our board and our staff are donors to the foundation. And what that means in real dollars, our foundation board members, the 10 people that serve on our board, out of their pockets, not through their influence, have donated close to $250,000 over the years. When you add in the people that they bring in, either their businesses, their direct influence, their friends, we're over $500,000 that has been brought in directly by this board. So this is a working, fundraising, dedicated, committed board of directors, and they only serve because they love the museum. And I made just the notes on there. We're really trying to move into more legacy giving and plan giving and qualified charitable giving in the future. Grants, just a list of the grants that we've received in the last couple of 3 years. If I were to put all the grants that we applied for on there, it would be 4 screens. But fortunately, the last one that we put on there, which was a real life draft for us, we did receive the 2020 CARES Act funding from all of the COVID relief packages. There was funding for nonprofits because of the hit that we took in our revenue stream and our income. We qualified for the full amount of the CARES Act, so we got $50,000 to just help prop us up, and it kept us this year in the black. Thank goodness.
And not a single penny is going to Chauncey's mayoral.
No, it is not. Corporate support, corporate business support. We're gonna really move past that. We get great. We've had very good support. That's an opportunity for us to really explore moving forward. But we've got some good groundwork there. Military organizations. We get a lot of good support from military organizations, both in terms financially. The Yorktown Association helped get the foundation started with support back in our beginning in 2013 and for 3 years there, and that was tremendous for us to get us off the ground. And then a lot of times it's support in terms of if we have an event and they come out and cook hot dogs and things like that. So it's a real range of help we get there. This is just our communications plan for 2021. Just to let y'all know, this is all, there's a lot of behind the scenes with donor outreach and donor stewardship. So this is some of the things that we'll be doing. It's in your booklet, and I won't bore you with getting into all of that. And just want to thank you all for making all of this possible. We are able to do this because of your support and what you do as a board, and we are so grateful to you for giving us this opportunity to do this. And then I've added just an addendum in your book, the last couple of pages. I think it should be one beyond that. So you have it in there. I did include our 3-year business plan, so you can see where our thinking has been and where we're going. And 9 out of the 10 are all fundraising, and then organizational sustainability. We'll dig in that again this year and kind of revisit that. So that's. I think that's kind of it. I feel like I've talked a lot. Sorry about that. I'm trying to keep it tight. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Wonderful work.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
We love doing it. It's a lot of fun.
Take a breath.
Yeah, really, that was a
Sorry.
great
That's a
presentation.
lot.
I just want to thank you for inviting us here, and I want to thank our board for doing what they do, and I want you to know that we're here and we want to help you out. So there's a lot of things we don't know about in terms of your needs, but we've got resources, and I think we all know we have to make the ship look better, we have to make the marketing work, we have to get the people on board, and I think it's all coming together, and thanks for the turnaround this last month. I hope that continues and we bring it all back together, and the education bill. So thank you again.
Great job.
Again, thank you guys for all you do. I thought it was important for them to present here. I don't think it's hard to understand just all that they're doing, and it's pretty amazing. And I think it's appropriate too that we had that presentation prior to the next one. But we're honored to have Dean Peterson, chairman of the Yorktown Association, with us today. They've been meeting on the shift this week, and it's appropriate since the association, it was a joint effort between the association and the authority to create the Yorktown Foundation, Mike, 8-9 years ago, Mike? And we did that in large part because of the investment that the Yorktown Association was willing to initiate in the early days, and we really appreciate that. Chairman Peterson, welcome.
Morning.
Morning.
Well, 2 days ago we had our board meeting, and in this same room we spent 5 hours at looking at PowerPoint slides, and had a good day like we always do. It's full of camaraderie. That's what we're about. And yesterday I got a email message that says you've been invited to the PPDA board meeting. That was the good news. About 3 hours later, I got a message that says they want you to make a presentation. And I was right in the middle of a project. So rather than dump my project and start off with something different, I've just included you into my project. And what my project is we started about 2-3 years ago of remembering our heroes, our predecessors, our crew members before us, and we develop a video and we present that to our membership at our reunion in October. This is the second one of those that we're going to do, and I was doing the research for that to make this presentation. And I mentioned that because we put these videos on Vimeo, and if you want to go see them, I think it gives you a good background of what the association's about. The first one we did was with the Sharkey family. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the Sharkeys, who they are. But Joe Sharkey, first of all, was a World War II veteran. Joe was severely injured in the bomb attack by the Japanese of the Yorktown, and he managed to survive that. And years later, he became, when the ship came to Charleston, he became our shipboard director and served us in that position for close to 30 years. When he passed away, his wife Irene took over that position. She served us for 4 years and she passed away. So what I thought I'd do is give you just a snapshot, a little bit of our history, and really tie it into what this project's about, and recognizing the one person that has a link that where we look back to is very close to the existence of PPDA and the foundation. So first of all, I hope somebody has a clicker, because I put these.
Cole will
There we
move
go.
the slides
Okay,
for you.
Cole's got them. If you can just click it, it should come up. that little feature is called Fly-In. I did that because I knew there were going to be some pilots here and they relate to it. But the association represents approximately 25,000 men who served on the Fighting Lady during the ship's time in active service. Today, our association is made up of past crew members, their direct descendants, their extended families, and association friends. So our complement is a little bit different than when it started out to be. In fact, from a legal standpoint, luckily they've changed, the IRS has changed some laws that allows us to exist still as a military organization. In the early days of this association, a very high percentage of the membership had to be from the military. Didn't necessarily have to be from your particular group, but they had to be military members. As the years have gone by, they've relaxed that a little bit. The percentage of the membership is lower than what it used to be, and it also includes now descendants of military people. So the complement allows us still to survive. So what this beginning of this little presentation is about our founder. His name's James Bryan Jr. And you can't hardly see him there, but if you look all the way in the back, there's an officer there that's supervising the loading of a 2,000-pound bomb on the Avenger. James Bryan on this ship was the aviation ordnance officer. And so if we go to the next slide. So after the war was over with, the crew came back, got back into their lives, and Jim thought it would be great for the World War II guys to get together. And him, amongst a couple of other shipmates, held a reunion in New York City in a place called Rupert's Brewery. And they got quite a turnout and knew that they really had something going, and everybody enjoyed it so much. Jim walked out of there and in the same year incorporated our association in the state of New York. So our lineage goes back to 1948. We have held a reunion every year since. We haven't missed a year. This year, past year, obviously we couldn't do that, but we held a virtual reunion. Like I said, if you want to go to Vimeo, you can see that reunion, what it's all about. It's an hour and 20-minute thing, so you may want to look at it in segments, but it's there for you to look at. So this is James Bryan, and this picture is unique from the standpoint that he was the person that made everything happen to bring this ship to Charleston. He was in Strom Thurmond's office the day that the Navy turned this ship over to the state of South Carolina. He was through the whole process. Actually, this ship, a couple years prior to that happening, they were looking at the state of Virginia. But things didn't work out in that regard, and the word got out that South Carolina, had developed PPDA and might have a home for it. So the marriage goes back to this day, and Jim Bryan is standing on a Coast Guard cutter, and that is the mouth of the harbor here coming into Charleston. So enough about our history, a little bit about our association. So what's unique about this association? One is we are one of the healthiest and most vibrant military fraternal organizations in the country today. These organizations have a lifespan tied to whoever belongs to them. Certainly we operate with that same kind of situation, but the way we've handled it, I think, is a little bit different than other associations. So there are very similar Navy associations whose ships museums today with with the kind of relationship that we've developed with PPDA and the foundation. And there's reasons for that, obviously. But it does go back to the very, very early days of when we came together. Sadly, what we are now seeing, especially amongst the Essex class carrier associations whose ships have been scrapped, are now struggling to stay alive. We have personal contacts with many of the associations like ours. We know of a couple right now that this may be their last year of existence. So what is the business that we're in? First of all, hospitality, no doubt about it. We started in a brewery. We know what to do. We know what pushes people's buttons. We're into caring and sharing. Our association is a family, and that's the way we look at our members. And the third thing is, I say we're into the business of memories, and it's a complicated business. Memories are, one, from a past perspective, they're out there, but for us, as we get older and older, they're harder to hold on to. But the biggest challenge is selling memories into the future. And that's the challenge we've taken on. So how do we stay in business as an association? We have a very simple business model. It's been in place for approximately 45 years, hasn't changed. The association is primarily internally funded through our membership. We live and die by our members. Now, our membership today is, again, a little bit different, and I'll mention that here in a minute. But from a financial standpoint, we rely on membership fees, donations from our members, and like everybody else, COVID has taken its toll on our operation. But we will be coming out of that. We're not too worried about that aspect of it. So, a couple of comments. First of all, I talked about our membership today. We have 3 different types of members today. We have the crew members, people who served on the ship. Then we have what we call legacy members. The legacy members are descendants. It could be a son, a daughter, a nephew, a niece. We started about 6 years ago to say that's the way we're going to survive in the future. Today on our board of directors, we have as many legacy members as we do crew members. And that number will eventually tip to the entire legacy members. And it's our intent over the next 3 to 4 years is to groom these people so they become the board of directors of the association and can take this thing into the future. And we found some great ones. I mean, and their ties to the ship are not superficial. They're from the heart. So that's who we are. That's how we get to the future. The third one is our friends, and Rachel's here. Rachel falls in that category. Rachel, stand up, Rachel. Rachel sits on our board of directors. Rachel is our shipboard administrative supervisor. She brings a lot of talent with her. The biggest benefit that she brings is she's so much younger than us. So we are relying on her in her age group to keep this thing going, and we see a bright future for us. We really do. And then the last thing I want to say is for all of us crew members, we appreciate so much the state of South Carolina, Patriots Point, all the work that the people here, the staff and everything they do, and we're looking forward to more good things happening. So that's who we are. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
What do you think their membership?
Thank you for being with us today. You're obviously the And we thank you for your service and the service of all the crews that served on that. Obviously, without that service, the Yorktown wouldn't be here and be the museum it is today. So we thank you for that. Mike, Executive Director.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I would echo those sentiments. For the presentations, but both the foundation and the association, there's a lot of folks that and I work with the foundation almost every single day, and this is not just a reminder. There is a lot of informative information in those briefs. So I think it's incredibly important for everybody's situational awareness to know just what those organizations do for us. On a historical note, most people kind of give a passing glance to a historical date and then just move on. But I think it's important to remember two things, and I'm going to briefly mention them to you. Yesterday was the 78th anniversary of the commissioning of this ship. Admiral Flatley reminded me a few weeks ago, and I've included it in my notes, and it's important that we mark those important dates. So I think it's important that I mention that. And secondly, I'd like to make it be known or remind folks that today is the 76th anniversary of the kamikaze attack on the USS Laffey. So those guys are here this week, the Laffey Association, and later this morning, actually right about now, they're having a small internal ceremony to commemorate, memorialize, excuse me, is a better term, their day of days. So just start off with those two quick points. Briefly, I will be brief. My comments are going to focus, and I always do, on a weekly basis. I kind of hopefully give you a cross-section update or maybe a dashboard snapshot of what's going on. So I'm not going to go over anything that's already been said. I will address challenges, and we have a lot of them. There's the constant variation, the constant K in our challenges remain, of course, the Clamagore disposition, the Laffey and the Yorktown hole, and those things that we're all aware of. But our two biggest challenges, I would say, that we're facing right now, the closest skaters to the boat, remain staffing or people, and then of course revenue or our budget. So people and money, no kidding. We're down 23 full-time employees. I had a brief discussion before this board meeting with Darwin and Pat about that. We're 23 less full-time employees in this agency right now, and close to 50 temps. How do you cover those gaps? You have to be adaptable, and key word there is adaptability. You leverage relationships and partnerships with local entities, with International Diving Institute, with forming exhibit working groups with our volunteers, Mike Zitzina and Tom Simons and Tom Ford, using those guys to help us formulate ideas and plans. You've got to overcome staffing shortfalls, and it's hard. It's easy to shut something down. It's extremely hard to bring those people and those organizations and those departments back. It takes a lot longer. You can maybe shut something off in a day, but it takes several months to raise them back up. So we're achieving success financially. It's great to hear that we're hopefully turning a corner, but I look at that as kind of like a baseball season. That's just 1 month. We're having a hot streak. We've got to maintain that to dig out of the hole that we're in, which leads to my second point regarding revenue and leading to the budget. We've got to be efficient. Some departments were almost completely shut down last year. Some took a 50% reduction in their budget for the fiscal year 2021. We're still under budget. So we have folks that took a 50% hit and are still not expending all of their budget expenditures or meeting that mark, which is a great thing. We're being very conservative and we're being very efficient. The staff is going to put together over the next few weeks, the FY22 budget, which we will present to you in May. So I'm going to review each of those. I'm going to posture the agency for the next fiscal year based on the best information we have for your consideration. It should give you about 30 days, kind of get back in that cycle to review it, and then in June we can make those refinements for execution, of course, in the next fiscal year. Those are really the only comments I was going to make before going into the executive session.
Mike, you might want to sort of give them an update. As you recall, at the last meeting, we directed the staff to go look at positions that they need.
Yes.
And you might wanna, they did that, the finance committee approved that, a week or two later, a couple of weeks later.
Yes.
So,
So there was a immediate needs. So a justification for immediate needs. There's several vacancies, but the most important things we need to backfill right now are ticket sales and people in the ticket booth, and that requires six people to work those ticket booths. The two out front, and of course the turnaround. At one point we had 5 of those 6 vacant. Chris and his staff have all been cross-trained. Chris is in there actually selling tickets with every one of his staff members, and he's also utilizing a temporary staffing agency. So we have, through the efforts of the approval from the finance committee, we're advertising those positions and hiring against those now. Administrative assistant, customer service. It sounds rather mundane, but those simply answering telephones and answering from folks that are ceaselessly calling the agency, asking for information on how do I get tickets, where do I go for this, that. We have had a gap in what we've had to do, and even Jess has helped not only sell tickets but answer phones as all of us have. We've got to hire against that position as well, and that's advertised as of yesterday. Camping and day group sales. We anticipate to restart the camping program here within 6 month period. We've got to hire against that. You have to start now. You can't wait until the last minute, and that will be advertised before this fiscal year. A certified history teacher. When Cindy Clark retired last August, that position has been vacant. Keith desperately needs to get a curriculum developer on board now or in the immediate future, and I think we anticipate that we can get that filled within the next hopefully 60 days. And then lastly, it sounds again maybe a little bit mundane, but a carpenter. We had one certified carpenter for the entire agency. There are literally hundreds of display cases in the Vietnam support base and duck board, the walking boards to the Quonset hut. There's an innumerable amount of repairs that need to be done that need the skills of a certified carpenter. So we're going to hire against that again before July. So we're moving forward. It takes a long time. Everybody's having a hard time filling positions across. I'm sure that Mid-America can attest to this. So we're gaining traction, but it's going to be slow to hire against those positions. That's about it.
and in the upcoming budgeting process, you're gonna give us plans for reopening camping and
Absolutely,
whenever
yes, sir.
we approve doing that, and et cetera, okay? All right, anything else? And if not, is there any public comments from anyone? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing contractual, legal, and personnel matters pertaining to Patriots Point Development Authority.
So moved.
Second. There's a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? The ayes have it. We'll move into executive session. Again, thank y'all so much for coming.
Sir.
Just gonna make sure you get down to the pier.
I wrote it down
Yeah, I did too.
Oh, I hate that.
because we kind of,
Car when you get up.
so all I did was write names down.
You don't have it, do you?
No.
How come you don't?
Well, for today, the out-of-town people.
You did, or
I
you're
have
going to?
Lori.
Oh, wow.
We're back
And
up.
Scott Hefferts.
Chris?
Yes,
are we
we're back up.
Oh,
They're
that's
also
we're back
local,
up
so they're
now.
later.
All right, we're back in open session.
Mike Tomlin.
Oh,
No
that's right.
decisions were made nor votes taken in executive session. The chair will entertain a motion from Mr. Simpson.
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we appoint Michael Hastings as Secretary of Authority until his death, resignation, removal, or until his successor is duly appointed.
That's sort of heavy.
Whoa. Are you sick? Is he sick?
Whoa.
Standard language.
Whoa. A second. Okay.
I won't be read that again.
No.
No, that might be a
We
whammy.
don't want a repetition on that one. All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? It's tradition that the executive director serves as secretary of the board. So, and that's been the case for many years. All in favor of the motion as presented, signify with the right hand. All opposed? The ayes have it, it's unanimous, and there's no more to come before the board today. We stand adjourned.